Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at a beer that's half Spanish, half Swedish, and both the breweries involved in this one I've had some very good experiences from in the past, so certainly looking forward to this. For the Spanish side of things we're going to Noáin in Navarro in Spain to visit Naparbier, and for the Swedish side of things we're going to Gothenburg here in Sweden for a look at another beer from Beerbliotek. So this one that they've done together is called Stop Me If You Think You Heard This One Before. It's an IPA coming in at 7% ABV, and it's hot with Citra, Simcoe and Amarillo, so kind of classic American hop. So really looking forward to this. The last IPA that I had from Naparbier was the Bagpiper, which I really quite enjoyed. I just got that one really because of the name. I thought, you know, kind of Scottish beer, but I really enjoyed that one. And you know, Beerbliotek, you've seen me review a number of things involving them, and they always tend to come out very, very well. So certainly looking forward to this beer, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done both from Naparbier and from Beerbliotek. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beer reviews that I've done for you, and another one for all the Spanish beers. Those are being added to whenever I can, the Swedish one more regular than the Spanish. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you about the breweries then, onto my brewery notes. So Naparbier first off then. So Naparbier, as I told you at the start of the video, are based in Noáin in Navarro in Spain. This is just to the south of Pamplona, but it's not in the Basque Country. Apparently I've made that mistake in a few of my videos before. This brewery is not from the Basque Country, but the company was founded back in 2009 by 4 entrepreneurs. So this was Juan Rodriguez, Josu Tananye, Chera Aistui, and also Jose Javier Rodriguez. But the guys found themselves unemployed, I think basically during the Spanish economic crisis, and so they decided to move forward with starting their own business. They started off with a small warehouse of just 150 square metres and a very modest capacity, but later in 2012 they moved into a larger facility where they could produce 500,000 litres of beer per year. In the early days they actually did a number of collaboration brews with you know, well-known Scandinavian and other European breweries, which really helped them kind of establish their reputation. So in 2014 they expanded the brewery yet again, and they're now joined by 2 other partners at the brewery. So this is Alex from Madrid and Sven Bosch from Barcelona, who's involved at the Beer Cab bar, which is one of the most popular craft beer bars in Barcelona. Barcelona of course is supposed to be a really, really good craft beer city these days. It's one that I definitely need to check out. The Spanish craft beers are very, very up and coming, and that's something I've said about quite a few of the countries in Europe these days. You know, the southern European countries that are very, very good at winemaking, when they divert their attention to craft beer, they tend to do it pretty well at it. There's some great things coming out of Greece just now. Spain of course is probably the biggest producer, I would say, out of the kind of Mediterranean countries, and Italy of course is doing some great things too. But Naparbier, as I say, I think this is my 3rd or 4th review involving them, and I've enjoyed all the things that I've had from them so far. So if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I highly recommend that you do. If you want to learn more about this brewery, check out the brewery website and stuff in the description below. So anyway, on to Beerbliotek then, and this is a brewery that I know that I've had quite a few encounters with. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this brewery is based in Gothenburg, Göteborg you should say in Swedish, and they were founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. So this is Adam Norman, who's an Australian, Richard Bull, who's a New Zealander, Anders Hedlund, who is a Swede, and also Darren Denecker, who comes from South Africa. And he's actually messaged me through the channel, so I need to talk to him when we go to Beerbliotek in a couple of weeks. But Adam and Richard actually ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Darren and Anders were really regular customers at the bar. And they used to just simply sit and talk about beer, and then one day they decided to actually buy a kit and brew their own. So the original brewery is in the old Klippan Sugar building, and it's a really nice old building that's very, very close to the old Carnegie brewery in Gothenburg, one of the really quite famous old companies of Sweden actually. But the brew kit that they have is from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they apparently brewed 38 different varieties of beer, and all of their beers are brewed in very small batches, so they kind of stick to the home brewing roots, and very rarely brew the same stuff actually, or they did at least in the early days. I think they're brewing the kind of successful batches a lot more often now, but they don't really have a fixed range of beer, if you like, and they're always brewing brand new things. And you'll see on their cans that all the beers have a certain number with them, and that means that, you know, you can tell which batch number that is or which recipe number that is. The whole idea behind the name, of course, was just to the name behind Beerbliotek was that they wanted to create a sort of beer library, if you like, and just learn something new about brewing with a different type of malt, or a different hop, or a different yeast, or something like that. That was the idea behind using the name Beerbliotek. But in 2015 they opened a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they have their tap room, and this is where they run their main brewing operations these days. The old brewery is now simply used for producing sour beers, and they're also working on a barrel aging project at the new brewery as well, which is quite cool. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Beerbliotek as well. These guys are probably one of the better known Swedish craft breweries these days, and the thing I've always found impressive about them is that when they're producing so many different recipes, the beer always tends to be of a really good quality. I mean, they had I forget, what was it called, Not Another Brown Ale. That was a really good beer. That was one of my favourite ones that I had from them. But they're always producing different things. They've always got some really interesting beers. They've had a coffee IPA that I remember reviewing, but they do some great stuff. They do a lot of collaborations as well, and you'll find their beers, they're quite distinctive because of the little sort of 330 cans that they're in. So make sure you check out Beerbliotek if you get a chance. The one frustrating thing about them is that in Sweden it's quite difficult to get all the beers that they do. Most of them, it's actually easier to go over to Copenhagen and get a lot of the beers that Beerbliotek are producing. So yeah, just bear that in mind with these guys. But that's all you need to know about them. Let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So like I said to you at the start of the video, this one is a 7% IPA. I think I should call it a double dry hopped IPA. There you can see the guy riding his bike. I always like these kind of skeleton artworks on Naparbier. But yeah, this one is dry hopped with Citra, Simcoe and Amarillo apparently. As I say, it comes in at 7% ABV. Not much else to say about the beer. There is the standard Naparbier bottle cap on this one. It looks a little bit like a kind of broken, it looks a bit like a broken record, or I don't know if it's meant to be an eye or exactly what it's meant to be, but yeah, nicely presented beer this one. I guess without further ado, let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. We'll see how we get on. Yeah. Nice bit of smoky opening there, and we'll get it out and into the glass. I have to admit, it's something I've never really seen. The Naparbier's beers in Scotland actually. It's a bit of a strange thing to say that, Naparbier beers, but I've never actually come across these ones in Scotland. It's only really been in Sweden that I've been able to actually get a hold of some of these Naparbier things. But yeah, look at that, you can smell the lovely fruity notes coming out of this beer actually as you open up. The passion fruit from the Simcoe really is coming out for me, but you can see that's a nice hazy, bright yellow colour that. There's a solid finger and a half of a frothy, I would say, white head on this one. I would say maybe there's a little hint of cream in there, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it does look really quite nice actually. I think that it does, you know, it looks pretty much as you would expect from one of these kind of modern IPAs. I'm not sure if this one's going to be a sort of New England type IPA or if it's just a kind of hazy IPA, if that makes sense, of course. But yeah, there is a difference between these kind of fruit juicy ones and just, you know, simply a hazy, unfiltered IPA. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect from the style, and you, as I say, you can smell some of these lovely tropical fruits coming off this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Oh, that smells really nice. So yeah, definitely passion fruits in there. You can smell the mangoes from the Citra. The passion fruits, of course, are coming from the Simcoe in this one. And oranges as well. The Amarillo gives you that lovely, big orangey citrus. There's almost a little bit of it. The way these hops are kind of mixing together, it does give the impression of a little bit of an almost peachy, apricot-y type thing, which is really interesting, because normally I think you can get a little bit of an apricot-y note from the Citra right enough, but normally with the hops that are in this, that's not a kind of aroma or flavour you would expect. So just pay attention to that with this beer. It's quite interesting in that regard, the way everything's going together. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy that aroma. The overall lying of the aroma of this, and it really leans towards the fruity juicy side of things. There's a little bit of a grassy component to it, you know, maybe a little touch of floral character, but I would say mainly it's grassy, this one. Underneath, you can smell a little bit of the white bready quality. There's maybe a little bit of an oaty note to this one. I'd say it's more bready though, right enough. And there's a little bit of a kind of biscuity sweetness in there as well. There's a little touch of sweetness to the malt base in this one. But mainly juicy fruits, nice little bit of grassy quality to it, like I said. A nice tropical juicy aroma. You could really smell that when you open this beer up. But let's have a taste of this one now then. So this one is the Stop Me If You Think You Heard This One Before, a collaboration IPA between Naparbier from Noáin and Navarro in Spain and Beerbliotek from Gothenburg here in Sweden. So let's get stuck into this beer and see how we get on. Slanja, skål, salud. Yeah. Yeah, that one's it's pretty nice. I'll give it a thumbs up straight away. This is a good beer. And in terms of the mouthfeel and stuff, this one's interesting because I think it's one of these ones that kind of draws the line a little bit between the kind of New England style, the sort of hazy type thing, but there's also a little bit of a West Coast oiliness to this beer, which is interesting. Yeah, I like what this one's doing. The malt base on this is fairly straight up, so you've got a nice little bit of a kind of white bready, wheaty malt base. That just blankets the middle of your palate. On top of that, as you progress further and further into the flavour, I don't think there's really an oaty quality to this one, which is interesting, but there is a little touch of graininess starts to come out of the beer. And you can feel there's a little bit of a biscuity sweetness. If you just go down the middle line of your palate, I think there's a little bit of a biscuity sweetness coming out of this one. And that, you know, that in a way, that might be the alcohol. At 7%, you will get a little bit of the kind of boozy caramel notes from the alcohol, but not that much actually. I will say that about this beer. The malt base in this one is fairly kind of straightforward, and that seems to be what brewers are going for these days. They're going for very straightforward malt bases. Yeah, I like how it's going together, this one. The fruity notes are really where this one kind of kicks off, if you like. It's got a little bit of a darker flavour to it, this one, which is honest. There is a little touch of dankness to this beer, I think. So on the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you do get a little bit of that slightly spicy, floral, aromatic note out of this beer. I do wonder if they've used maybe, you know, like Columbus or something like that to sort of, you know, as the base hop, as the bittering hop for this one. Because there is a good bit of that dankness there, and then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, I would say. Yeah, I like how everything's going together in this beer. It's good. But then just behind the front curve of the palate, as I always say, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those nice juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. For me, this is interesting because it's the passion fruit that really starts to take hold of this beer. You can feel that darker passion fruit flavour just forming the linchpin of the fruity side of the beer. There's definitely a little bit of mango mixing in that. The mango comes out a little bit more as you progress into the aftertaste. There's a nice little bit of juicy fruity quality in there. There's a little bit of that, I should say oily orange. I meant juicy oranges. There's a little bit of that orangey quality kind of sitting there as well, and as you go further and further into the aftertaste of this one, there's a little bit of the kind of light cheese. There's a little bit of an almost limey character coming out of this one as well, which I think is quite interesting. But yeah, it's an interesting beer, that. The way everything's going together, it's quite unusual, this one. This one's a bit darker. I think that the way that the floral aromaticity in this one, for me, it does have a good bit of dankness to it, this beer. which is quite interesting. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of spicy quality to it as well, which is really interesting too. This is quite different from the other Naparbier ones that I've had before. The other ones have been a little bit sweeter in the malt base, and they've been a little bit brighter in terms of the fruity qualities, but for me, the malt base in this one has a little bit of that grainy quality, and it's the dark, sort of dank, floral aromatic notes that are jumping out of this one at me. But overall, it's a nice beer, this one. If you like a big, dank, kind of floral aromatic IPA, then this is one that's going to hit the spot for you. It's nicely done that. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. It is a good beer. It's just quite a bit different from the things I've had from Naparbier and from Beerbliotek before. The one thing I would wonder about it a little bit, with it being from Systembolaget, this is one of the small partiers from the 3rd of August. I would wonder if this beer has been lying for a little bit, and when it's come from Spain, I would suspect that if it had been one of the Beerbliotek ones, I'd have thought, if it had been brewed by Beerbliotek, I would have thought it would be a little bit fresher, and I think this beer maybe isn't quite at its prime, if that makes sense, but you can tell straight away that it is a solid beer, this one, and I'm sure fresh it would be just that little bit more kind of soft and juicy, if that makes sense. It's going through that phase where it becomes a little bit more dank, I would say. In terms of the mouthfeel then, mid-bodied, carbonation smooth. As I was saying at the start, this beer's got a little bit of that oily character that you would expect of a West Coast IPA, but it has a little bit of that kind of creaminess that you would expect from the hazy beers as well. It does build a good bridge there. Good little bit of hoppy bitterness. This one, some nice juicy fruits, and the malt base, I would say overall, is mainly quite smooth, but there's a little touch of sweetness to it. But yeah, it's an interesting beer, this one. Have a go at it. Naparbier are a really good brewery. I want to try something darker from them actually next time, because I think all 3 of the beers, or all 4 of the beers, have been IPAs and things like that, so I'd love to try a darker beer from Naparbier and see how I get on with that. And pretty much when it comes to Beerbliotek, I've had darks, I've had lights, and they've all been pretty impressive. So 2 really good breweries involved in this one, and they've produced yet another nice beer, which isn't surprising, to be honest. But as I say, with this one, I think it's just one of the things with Systembolaget. It will have been sitting for a couple of weeks, so it's not quite at its freshest, but I can imagine fresh, this beer really is pretty damn good. But as it is, it's still pretty damn good. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this one was just to get the name exactly right, stop me if you think you heard this one before, a collaboration IPA between Naparbier from Noáin and Navarro in Spain, just near Pamplona, and Beerbliotek from Gothenburg here in Sweden. A really interesting beer, this one, and I was glad I got to review it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section, but let me know what your favourite beers are from Naparbier and from Beerbliotek as well. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte just now. Skål.